Know, O Prince, that between the years when the oceans drank Atlantis and the gleaming cities, and the years of the rise of the sons of Ares, there was an age undreamed of, when shining kingdoms lay spread across the world like blue mantles beneath the stars. Nemedia, Ophir, Brunthia, Hyperborea, Zamora with its dark-haired women and towers of spider-haunted mystery, Zingara with its chivalry, Koth that bordered on the pastoral lands of Shem, Stygia with its shadow-guarded tombs, Hyrcania, whose riders wore steel and silk and gold. But the proudest kingdom of the world was Aquilonia, reigning supreme in the dreaming west. Hither came Conan the Cimmerian, black-haired, sullen-eyed, sword in hand, a thief, a reaver, a slayer, with gigantic melancholies and gigantic mirth, to tread the jeweled thrones of the earth under his sandaled feet. These words are taken from the Nemedian Chronicles and are the opening to The Phoenix on the Sword, written by Robert E. Howard. The Phoenix on the Sword is the first published Conan story, published in the December 1932 issue of Weird Tales magazine. Conan's first appearance is actually a previously rejected Call story that Robert E. Howard reworked for his new creation, Conan the Cimmerian. Nowadays, he is commonly known as Conan the Barbarian. Created and written by Robert E. Howard, Conan was a popular character who appeared in Weird Tales magazine from 1932 through 1936. Robert E. Howard wrote all of the stories himself. The artwork in Weird Tales magazine was done by Margaret Brundage. Most people today know Conan from the movies starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and more recently Jason Momoa. While there are some hints of Robert E. Howard's work still present, these are by no means a good representation of the original Conan character. Conan's physique, for one, is not described like that of a bodybuilder. Howard describes his physique as being like a panther. He is a very strong man, but he isn't overly built like Arnold. Other images often associated with Conan are the paintings done by legendary artist Frank Frazetta. These were used as the covers of the Conan Lancer paperbacks during the 1970s paperback craze. Frazetta's Conan has become the iconic visual image of the character. The Pulp Conan is a fierce warrior and lifelong adventurer. He is also very intelligent and cunning. During the early days of his travels to civilization, he is very naive, but he isn't fooled twice by the same ruse. Whether he is a sword for hire, a pirate, a thief, or a king, he always has a sword at hand, and a sense of humor. That's one of the things not brought across in most depictions of the character, is that sense of humor. He is not a slapstick comedian by any means, but he does enjoy a good laugh when the moment dictates it. There were 17 Conan stories published in Weird Tales magazine, but due to Howard's suicide on June 11th, 1936, no more Conan stories would see publication in the magazine. However, 4 finished stories were published posthumously in various magazines during the 1960s, as well as a few unfinished fragments. Howard's Conan stories are amazing. They still hold up today and are a lot of fun. Howard's prose is very energetic, and he writes action and fight scenes incredibly well. The Conan stories do not have to be read in any particular order. Howard skipped around in Conan's life, sometimes telling a tale of the young Conan, while other times focusing on King Conan. I would recommend buying the Del Rey Conan series and reading them in the order they appear there. I did, and have no complaints. The Del Rey versions are the best representation of Howard's character available. During the 1970s paperback craze, the publishers altered the text in order to make the short stories seem like a series of novels. The Del Rey editions preserve the original text and add amazing interior illustrations from top-notch artists. The 3 Del Rey collections also include historical material by Robert E. Howard scholar Rusty Burke, which are good reading in their own right. The 3 Del Rey books are The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian, The Bloody Crown of Conan, and The Conquering Sword of Conan. If you live in the United Kingdom, a company called Wandering Star published this exact same material in 3 volumes called Conan of Cimmeria, volumes 1 through 3. These Del Rey collections are so good they might just spoil you on collecting stories of other pulp characters not created by Robert E. Howard. They are that complete. This is the only Conan you need. However, as a Conan fan, I do have to say that Dark Horse has done a fantastic job with their Conan comics. Conan number 0, The Legend, is a must-read. This issue got me interested in Conan as a character, and after reading it, I bought all 3 Del Rey collections, and I've been hooked ever since. Conan number 0 was written by Kurt Busiek and illustrated by Cary Nord. The Dark Horse comics, written by Kurt Busiek, Tim Truman, and Roy Thomas, have been very good. Lately, Brian Wood has been writing Conan, and his depiction of the character doesn't really hold true to the pulp character. It is still a well-written and drawn book, but I prefer the works of Busiek, Truman, and Thomas. They have a better feel for the classic pulp character. All of the Conan stories, whether they are comics or the classic pulp tales, are set during the Hyborian Age. This lost age of sword and sorcery is set at approximately 10,000 BC. For more information on Conan and Robert E. Howard, please visit the following websites. I will include links in the show notes. If you go to Librivox.org and search for Robert E. Howard under authors, it will bring up this list of public domain audiobooks that you can download for free. Some of these are Conan stories. I will be including an excerpt from Shadows in the Moonlight, one of my favorite Conan stories.
He released her with a startled oath and sprang back, his saber flashing out, as a terrible apparition burst from the reedy jungle, sounding an inarticulate cry of hate. Olivia, staring up from the ground, saw what she took to be either a savage or a madman advancing on Shah Amurath in an attitude of deadly menace. He was powerfully built, naked but for a girdled loincloth, which was stained with blood and crusted with dried mire. His black mane was matted with mud and clotted blood. There were streaks of dried blood on his chest and limbs, dried blood on the long, straight sword he gripped in his right hand. From under the tangle of his locks, bloodshot eyes glared like coals of blue fire. "You Hyrcanian dog!" mouthed this apparition in a barbarous accent. "The devils of vengeance have brought you here." "Kozak!" ejaculated Shah Amurath, recoiling. "I did not know a dog of you escaped. I thought you all lay stiff on the steppe by Ilbar's river." "All but me, damn you!" cried the other. "Oh, I've dreamed of such a meeting as this, while I crawled on my belly through the brambles, or lay under rocks while the ants gnawed my flesh, or crouched in the mire up to my mouth. I dreamed, but never hoped it would come to pass. Oh, gods of hell, how I have yearned for this!" The stranger's bloodthirsty joy was terrible to behold. His jaws champed spasmodically. Froth appeared on his blackened lips. "Keep back," ordered Shah Amurath, watching him narrowly. "Ha!" It was like the bark of a timber wolf. "Shah Amurath, the great lord of Akif. Oh, damn you! How I love the sight of you, you who fed my comrades to the vultures, who tore them between wild horses, blinded and maimed and mutilated them. Ah, you dog! You filthy dog!" His voice rose to a maddened scream, and he charged. In spite of the terror of his wild appearance, Olivia looked to see him fall at the first crossing of the blades. Madman or savage, what could he do naked against the mailed chief of Akif? There was an instant when the blades flamed and licked, seeming barely to touch each other and leap apart. Then the broadsword flashed past the saber and descended terrifically on Shah Amurath's shoulder. Olivia cried out at the fury of that stroke. Above the crunch of the rending mail, she distinctly heard the snap of the shoulder bone. The Hyrcanian reeled back, suddenly ashen, blood spurting over the links of his hauberk. His saber slipped from his nerveless fingers. "Quarter!" he gasped. "Quarter?" There was a quiver of frenzy in the stranger's voice. "Quarter? Such as you gave us, you swine!" Olivia closed her eyes. This was no longer battle, but butchery, frantic, bloody, impelled by an hysteria of fury and hate, in which culminated the sufferings of battle, massacre, torture, and fear-ridden, thirst-maddened, hunger-haunted flight. Though Olivia knew that Shah Amurath deserved no mercy or pity from any living creature, yet she closed her eyes and pressed her hands over her ears to shut out the sight of that dripping sword that rose and fell with the sound of a butcher's cleaver, and the gurgling cries that dwindled away and ceased. She opened her eyes to see the stranger turning away from a gory travesty that only vaguely resembled a human being. The man's breast heaved with exhaustion or passion. His brow was beaded with sweat. His right hand was splashed with blood. He did not speak to her or even glance toward her. She saw him stride through the reeds that grew at the water's edge, stoop, and tug at something. A boat wallowed out of its hiding place among the stalks. Then she divined his intention and was galvanized into action. "Oh, wait!" she wailed, staggering up and running toward him. "Do not leave me! Take me with you!" He wheeled and stared at her. There was a difference in his bearing. His bloodshot eyes were sane. It was as if the blood he had just shed had quenched the fire of his frenzy. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I am called Olivia. I was his captive. I ran away. He followed me. That's why he came here. Oh, do not leave me here. His warriors are not far behind him. They will find his corpse. They will find me near it. Oh!" She moaned in her terror and wrung her white hands. He stared at her in perplexity. "Would you be better off with me?" he demanded. "I am a barbarian, and I know from your looks that you fear me." "Yes, I fear you," she replied, too distracted to dissemble. "My flesh crawls at the horror of your aspect, but I fear the Hyrcanians more. Oh, let me go with you. They will put me to the torture if they find me beside their dead lord." "Come, then." He drew aside, and she stepped quickly into the boat, shrinking from contact with him. She seated herself in the bow, and he stepped into the boat, pushed off with an oar, and, using it as a paddle, worked his way tortuously among the tall stalks until they glided out into open water. Then he set to work with both oars, rowing with great, smooth, even strokes, the heavy muscles of arms and shoulders and back rippling in rhythm to his exertions. There was silence for some time, the girl crouching in the bows, the man tugging at the oars. She watched him with timorous fascination. It was evident that he was not an Hyrcanian, and he did not resemble the Hyborian races. There was a wolfish hardness about him that marked the barbarian. His features, allowing for the strains and stains of battle and his hiding in the marshes, reflected the same untamed wildness, but they were neither evil nor degenerate. "Who are you?" she asked. "Shah Amurath called you a Kozak. Were you of that band?" "I am Conan of Cimmeria."
Thanks for watching. This is Jason Aiken. You can find my website at pulpcrazy.com. I'm also pulpcrazy on Twitter. You can email me at pulpcrazy@gmail.com. Until next time.